I forgive myself that I accept myself to feel a resistance to self-forgive myself. I forgive myself, accept myself to feel that I don't need to self-forgive. I mean, why do I need to self-forgive? I'm so fine. I forgive myself, accept myself to believe that I don't need to self-forgive. In this, I'm trying to tell myself, listen, I don't need to self-forgive. Just live like the normal people. I mean, why do I have to self-forgive? What is there to self-forgive? That is the question I am asking this morning. What is there to self-forgive? I am just fine. And in that I am feeling a strong resistance to self-forgiveness. I feel like, alright, let me just, read a newspaper or something instead of self-forgiveness. I forgive myself, accept myself to feel a resistance within myself to self-forgive. I forgive myself, accept myself to look for reasons and excuses so that I can avoid self-forgiving myself. The mind is so strongly telling me, oh, just take it easy, just today take it easy, just one day take it easy. Don't have to self-forgive every day, come on, take it easy just this morning. Because I have made a decision to do self-forgiveness every day. I mean, why postpone? I mean, why self-forgive just once a week? Why can't I do it every day? I mean, I know self-forgiveness is a process that will set me free from my own accepted, allowed bullshit. So why am I postponing it? Why am I saying, okay, not today, well, let's do it tomorrow? Or, every other day or once a week. Is my mind looking for some escape path to avoid self-forgiveness and just, return to the ways of the ego? I forgive myself that I accept myself to want to escape self-forgiving. I forgive me that I accept myself to believe that I am fine just the way I am. I forgive myself that I accept myself to give in to resistance. I forgive myself that I accept myself to believe that I am so fine that I don't even need to self-forgive myself. I forgive myself that I accept myself to give in to the lethargy of the mind. I forgive myself that I accept myself not realize the mind that will not cooperate for self-forgiveness. The mind has its own mind. It is I who forgive myself. Obviously, self-forgiveness is not the easiest thing to do. If self-forgiveness was so easy, we would have a heaven on earth. Self-forgiveness is a very difficult thing to do, yet the most simplest thing to do. Simple but difficult. That's a strange way to define self-forgiveness. Simple and difficult. Yeah, when I first heard about this, I read in a book about self-forgiveness, the book written by Bernard Pullman, Virus-Free Mind book. In there is one line, he says, self-forgiveness is so simple that the only problem with it is telling people that this tool will work. Where people will say, well, this is so simple, come on, how can it set me free? They will ridicule self-forgiveness because it's so simple. And that is the difficulty with self-forgiveness. If someone tell me, Anton, you have to take this very special course and you have to, climb 2 mountains and do very difficult, challenging, and and it costs expensive, and they might you the great guru you might meet, and then you can be a great person. Then I will say, oh yeah, I want to do that because it sounds very challenging. Whereas the tool here, self-forgiveness, is so simple, and that's why it's difficult. It's so hard to do a simple thing. It's so hard to say, I forgive myself, that I've accepted, allow myself to give in to resistance. Because in that I am saying I would rather be in a state of resistance and give in to resistance rather than push myself through resistance. I forgive myself and accept allow myself to want to just talk about something rather than actually self-forgiving myself. I forgive myself, accept allow myself to look for ways and means to avoid self-forgiving myself. I forgive myself, accept allow myself to look for ways and means to self-forgive myself and avoid self-forgiving myself. Yeah, I made a mistake in that statement. I just realized it's the resistance. I'm still in a state of resistance today. I'm actually feeling like, wow, why don't I just take a little break today? Why do I have to self-forgive today? I'm doing this every day now, recording self-forgiveness. And why do I have to do it every day? Why can't I just take one day off? Just today. I forgive myself, accept allow myself to want to give in to the resistance that I feel within my mind. I forgive myself, accept allow myself to want to just, give in to resistance and take it easy. I don't have to self-forgive every day. Come on. I'm not that bad. I forgive myself, accept allow myself to want to avoid looking at myself. Because self-forgiveness takes me to the point of self-responsibility and self-honesty. And so maybe I don't want to be self-honest. I want to be in a state of self-dishonesty where I can be emotional and spiteful and all those nonsense. I can be angry. I forgive myself, accept allow myself to want to be angry and nasty, and that's why I'm trying to avoid self-forgiving this morning. That's why I want to give in to the resistance of my mind. I forgive myself and accept allow myself to want to give in to the resistance of my mind so that I can get back to the emotions of anger and nastiness that's in the background of my mind today. I forgive myself, accept allow myself to have a strange desire to blame somebody or something. I want to get back to that mode of blaming. So if I'm self-forgiving, I can't really blame, because blame is the opposite of self-responsibility. I forgive myself, accept allow myself to have a strange desire and a wanting to blame. So that's funny. Blame and resistance all go together. So that's another thing about self-forgiveness. You cannot blame. You can't blame for anything. Even when I'm feeling so heavy resistance towards self-forgiveness, I cannot blame anyone or anything. It's my mind's own emotions and feelings that are pushing me to go into resistance and just give up. Just give up for this morning. Today I'm having a bad day. I got woken up at 4 in the morning, and from 4 to 5 I was rolling and rolling, could not sleep. So 4 o'clock That's that's like a deep sleep, 1 hour gone, and then I think around 5 o'clock I must have fell asleep, and then at 6 I got woken up again. So there is a little bit of tiredness in the mind, meaning the mind is agitated. So it's telling me all kinds of ways to stop self-forgiving today. Just take it easy. I forgive myself that accept promise to believe to take it easy, that I must stop self-forgiving myself. I forgive myself, accept promise to believe that I must give in to my mind no matter what, because the mind is always right, so I believe. I forgive myself, accept promise to decide to give in to the mind and its emotional highs and downs. I forgive myself, accept promise to want to give in to my mind. I forgive myself, accept promise to want to give in to the emotional pressure that I feel within my mind. I forgive myself, accept myself to want to give in to the emotional pressure that I feel within my mind. I forgive myself, accept myself to want to give in and give up. I forgive myself, accepted and allowed myself to want to give in to the old ways of my mind, which is to just take it easy, give up, and get back to the mode of blaming, get back to the mode of accusing. So usually when I'm in a usually when I don't get sleep like this, my mind goes to a very cranky state, and then I'll start blaming somebody, fighting, charging. I forgive myself, accept myself to desire to go back to the mode of blaming. I forgive me that accept myself to want to fall back to my familiar pattern of blaming and accusing and feeling pity for myself. I forgive myself, accept myself to want to feel pity for myself. So this is why I'm kind of feeling reluctant to self-forgive. There's a strong reluctance, resistance to do self-forgiveness. Because then I can easily fall back to blaming. I can start blaming somebody today. I forgive myself, accept myself to want to blame someone. I forgive me that accept myself to want to give in to the mind's emotional pressure. I forgive myself, accept myself to give in to my mind's emotional resistance and reluctance to self-forgive myself. I forgive myself, accept myself to believe that my mind is the ultimate authority of me, not realizing I am the ultimate authority of me. I allow what happens within me. I allow and I participate. I forgive myself, accept myself to believe that my physical body is secondary, whereas the mind is the primary. Not realizing my physical body is the primary. My body is here. Yes, I lost 1 hour of sleep today. That doesn't mean I'm dead. My body is here, perfectly fine. But my mind is churning and turning in sleepiness and tiredness. If my physical body was actually really tired, it would indicate to me, and my body itself might fall asleep. So I think there is a role reversal, where instead of physical being the primary, the mind has become the primary. Mind dictates and directs what's going on and what's happened. I forgive myself, accept myself to think that my mind is the boss. So I must listen to my mind. I must do whatever the mind is telling me to do. If the mind says I'm stressed out, tired, sleepy, then I have to give in to that. I forgive myself that I accept myself to want to give in and give up. I forgive myself that accept allow myself to blame, decide to blame again. I forgive myself, accept allow myself to want to blame. I forgive myself, accept allow myself to want to find some fault. I forgive myself, accept allow myself to go into that cranky state. I forgive myself, accept allow myself to give in to the energetic highs and downs of my mind. I forgive myself. I forgive myself. What a simple statement. I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to give in to the pressure of my mind. This simple statement will set me free. And that is the difficult part. I forgive myself that accept allow myself to accept and allow myself to give in to the pressure of my mind, which is telling me to resist self-forgiveness. I'm feeling reluctance to do it and just want to take it easy today. It's telling me I don't have to do another uploading, I don't have to do another recording, I have enough recordings. Why do I have to do another one? This I am doing to myself. I am self-forgiving me for who I am and what I have become. I am setting myself free from my own entrapments. I am setting myself free from my own mind. Because my mind has a huge secret mind. So I am setting myself free from myself. I forgive myself that accept allow myself not realize the reason I am self-forgiving is to set myself free from my accepted and allowed bullshit. So this is something I have to walk. I have to walk through all the layers of my mind. And this is a process. This is not going to happen overnight. I have to walk this process, push myself through. I forgive myself, accept allow myself to want to give in and give up. Just fall back to that, take it easy. Okay, today forget about self-forgiveness today. Just take it easy today. I forgive myself, accept allow myself to feel reluctance and resistance to do any self-forgiveness. I feel like I just want to just take it easy and just sleep and just blame and complain. I forgive myself, accept allow myself not to realize my mind is on a emotional trip right now, high and low. I forgive myself, accept allow myself to define me as my mind. I forgive myself, accept allow myself to define myself as the emotional high and low of my mind. I forgive myself, accept allow myself to associate myself and define myself as the polarity points of my mind. I forgive myself, accept allow myself to be emotionally high and low. So I forgive myself, accept allow myself to not realize the breathing is the key. I forgive myself that accept allow myself not realize breathing is the key. So I am here. I breathe. So the simplest thing has become difficult. Simplest thing is to say, I forgive myself that I've accepted and allow myself to give in to the resistance of my mind. And making this simple statement is so difficult right now. So those of you who are listening to this, if you feel a resistance to self-forgive, that is the difficult part about self-forgiveness. Just to open your mouth and say, I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to give in to the resistance of my mind. The simplest tool, we have made it complicated because we ask, well, how can such a simple thing could work? If I tell you a 10-step difficult routine, you might actually do it. I forgive myself, I accept myself to believe that I need a very complicated and a difficult process. Because this simple tool called self-forgiveness is so simple. And in that I make it complicated. So simple that it is hard to apply. Well, breath is always a good self-support. Just breathe. I'm breathing here. If I'm here in the body, and I'm forgiving myself. I'm forgiving myself. I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to give in to my mind. The mind is not who I am. Well, ultimately I am also my mind. Everything about me is me. I have allowed me to be the emotional mind of me. I cannot separate me from my mind. But yet, truly who I am is not my mind. But yet there is no battle against the mind. I am not fighting my mind. I am simply not giving in to my mind. There is no battle within myself. I am also my mind. I am everything within my mind is also me. The emotional high and low is also me. Emotions are me too. Everything about me is me. There is no separation, no battle. It's just I don't want to be defined by my mind. Give in to my mind. So this is the self-forgiveness process. It continues layers after layer, like an onion. So I am committing myself to forgive myself every day. This is something I have put off for so long time. So this is a regular self-commitment, and make a recording and upload and sharing with others. Thank you. Please join us at www.destiny.co.in.